Alright, ladies and gentlemen, part 2 of our Porsche clutch video. I got a little bit of work done, trying to catch my bearings here. Talking about a bearing, get it? Okay, so let's start over here. We'll start right here with the transmission itself. So as you know, I opted to just go ahead and throw the whole entire thing into the washer. So it was terrible. Well, obviously you can see that. You see it in the video, how terrible it was. So I got everything cleaned up. First to start with, there is a seal that's rather hard to find. Well, kind of sort of. I mean, if you order it, you've got time. I guess it's not hard to find, but to get that seal, it's I'll have to link the number in the video, but it's a 40 by 28 by 8 is what it is. It's 8 millimeter tall. It's 40 on the outer diameter, or 40.23 millimeters, I should say, because it's a rubber seal, or rubber coated seal, and then it's 28 on the ID, and that would be your shaft size. Now, this contraption sits on here like this. All right. Can go, but won't work. Now, you see the two tabs? They will not go on that other side. It can only go one way. Not that it matters. If it was equal, it wouldn't matter, but anyway. This is where the seal sits. The seal, when you put it in, it faces inside out, because once you flip, it'll be the right way, if that makes sense. We'll go through that again, but anyhow. So there is an O-ring. You might want to get that O-ring. All right, this is this one here. Now, I made a mistake. Well, not made a mistake. Let me rephrase that. I thought what was on the transmission and what's all over the vehicle, I thought, man, that's awful heavy to be motor oil. So I initially thought, well, it has to be the rear main seal that's leaking. And then I changed my mind. I thought, well, I better go ahead and get this seal. I thought it was actual transmission fluid that was leaking out of it, which is leaking too, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it isn't, but that wasn't really the culprit that had all the oil slung all over the place. It was, in fact, the rear main. And I was going to leave that there, but right there, ladies and gentlemen, look right there. That seal is gone. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of oil right there. You see the wet spots all the way around it, but there is actually the liquid right there. I hope the camera can pick it up. Anyway, and that was the culprit. And of course, I do have that seal because that was my original suspicion. Now, moving on. That pilot bearing on the flywheel, let me get the camera down there. The pilot bearing on the flywheel, I'm actually good with. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's a pilot bearing. It wasn't making noises. You know, it should be good. Put a little bit of CV grease in it, and it should be good. Now, there is, I'm going to go ahead and say this. There is a YouTube channel you should not be listening to. These fools actually put a clutch back onto the flywheel without grinding it. And therein, we're going to talk about something else. Flywheel does not need to be turned. Ideally, you're going to want to grind it, just like when you buy a new rotor at the parts store, how to have a crosshatch. Ideally, that's what that surface is supposed to look like. And on this particular channel, and I'm not going to name the channel, they just slap a clutch back on this. See that blue one right there? That ain't worth a hoot. You put a new clutch on that surface, you automatically reducing the life of your new clutch. Automatically, no ifs and buts about it, you're going to reduce the life of that clutch. Not to mention, that clutch, right from the get-go, is going to start slipping. There's no two ifs and buts about it, that it's no good. Now, there is a step. There's a 100% step in here, okay? That's not a step that is supposed to be there. That's where the clutch has worn into it. Now, the rivets have failed on this clutch, but the rivets have failed on the other side. But even so, this discoloration right here means that the clutch don't have a fighting chance to be correct. You know, that needs to be addressed. All right. So now I've done harped enough on that subject. So let's go to the other subject. Now there is something that we can do on a throwout bearing. If the bearing that you have on your clutch is okay, in fact, okay, So what we can do, all right, is these bearings, if they're not hurt, they'll turn really, really free. But the bearing has an impression where all the little fingers from the clutch, where they sit, it had a deep impression here. Now, what you can do in a case where your bearing is not worn all that bad, you can go ahead and I'm gonna tell you this, you have to be really, really careful to do this, and you've got to know what you're doing. You can take a grinding disc on a grinder like this, and you go like this, that spins that bearing. It will grind it 100% even. It doesn't necessarily have to be flat all the way across. It has to be even. You see what I did here? I hope the camera can pick it up. This thing actually looks pretty good. However, there is going to be a however. This one was worn so deep, I took too much material off this bearing face. So, needless to say, that one is going to get replaced. That looks good, and you thought, oh no, you can use that. No, we're not going to use that because it's too thin. It's too thin. It's part of geometry as well. You know that the cylinder, the release cylinder, you know, where it pushes it and all that good stuff. All that has to work. You know, that's all been engineered together to have certain specs on distances and all that good stuff. And I just took a lot of material off of this because that groove was a lot deeper than what I initially thought. And I measured this, and I'm not going to give you a number on account of, well, I'm not going to give you a number. But anyway, I took quite a bit of material off of that because when you use a sanding disc on that, you take material off real fast. And I will show you. I will show you what I'm talking about. As advertised, you can do this, but you must use caution and not grind too much off of that. So let's go ahead and switch this over. This is a buffer, by the way, or a buffing pad. This is a sanding disc. So this is basically what I've done. Oh, you can't see. Of course, I was using caution. And that's exactly what I did, but it ended up taking too much material. So the throwout bearing garbage, we're going to replace it. Did not come in my clutch kit. I used a OE manufacturer, but not got it from Porsche. Sachs is what the OE is, and that's what I ordered. I kind of had an idea it was. Didn't know for sure, but I had an idea, and I seen some other items that was labeled such. So anyway, that's what happened so far. Now, as I said yesterday, I had an issue as well with the CV axles. So I took the band off of it. Clearly, these things was leaking. Now, I know people don't like talking, get over it, but I used to order a Moog 3301. I kept them in stock for many, many years. Well, they don't make it anymore. They're little individual packages, about $3 or something. You squish them in there. It's the right amount. You pop your stuff back together, and you're good to go. Well, they don't make it anymore. Now we got to use Dorman, which is twice the price per side. Now the outer, I didn't see anything slinging out of it, but these clamps right here appear to be loose. I don't see cracks in the boot itself, but the clamp appear pretty loose. They're not a good high-quality clamp, and I'm going to try to find some clamps tomorrow that require a certain tool that is going to be laying in my toolbox over there to really tighten down on them. And we'll bend them over, and that should remedy the leaking problem. They actually do have a groove that this boot slips into right here. I'm sure the camera can see that, but anyhow, I guess it just wasn't tight enough to really latch onto it. All of this has been cleaned up. You seen that yesterday. I showed you that. And yeah, apparently that is another day. We just said that. I got one of the intake tubes cleaned up. But anyway, that's really all I done. I had to do other stuff today that, well, simply because I didn't have all the materials to keep going on this. So I'm going to check and see if the seal is correct, and I'll turn the camera back on. All right, so this little unit right here, I say this little unit, this big unit, that's the EGR valve, or the EGR system, I guess you'd call it. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. So I got 2 seals ordered. Got 2 national oil seals ordered. I got this one. I got that one. That one is clearly not it because my rear right there is bigger than the package. So we'll check this one here. See if that is possibly it. And no, this seal is also wrong, so I'm not even going to bother giving you a number. So we're going to have to step back and do that one again. Well, this is probably a matter of getting that measure out. I probably selected the wrong vehicle, something about it I selected wrong. This is a 2.7, so I didn't know that, but I can get a number off the seal, hopefully, and we'll be able to replace it that way. As a matter of fact, what you do, if you can find a number, now that you've seen the oil coming out of it, knowing it's leaking, we can do some spraying and wiping and all that good stuff and remove my light because they don't like this spray clean. And would you know it, Porsche's nice enough to not give us no numbers. But that's easy enough. What it amounts to is, being that's a German car, we already know this thing is going to have a metric seal in it. I mean, you know, kind of goes without saying. It should. So we take them here calipers. So that's a 84.9. All right, so that'd be an 85 seal. That'd be an 85 ID, and it's going to be something like a 105 on the outside. So we'll verify that and see if I'm right. So 85, 105. We'll see if we can make it happen. I get to kind of chalk that down in your mind. That's how you pick a seal. We have Motion Industries over here in a neighboring town, and I'm going to give Motion Industries a ring in the morning and see what they can tell me about the seal. But either way, I mean, I can take the seal out of here. It doesn't matter, simply because it's going to have to be replaced. It's leaking. We're going to replace the seal. I mean, it is what it is. You know, we get a seal puller after it, we'll yank it out of there and call it a day. Anyhow, I was hoping it'd have some kind of markings on it. Well, I guess my eyes ain't that great, so. Well, it's teeny weeny, so hold that thought for just a second. Ever so often, I can't see it, but my phone can. Oh no, would you know it? DGS 85 105 11 LFO2. Imagine that. So anyway, so my assumption was correct. That is what it is. That's exactly what that is. So a lot of times these part numbers give it away. Yeah, absolutely. This one here does give it away as well. That seal is definitely too big because it's a 113. So 113 is not going to fit in the morning weight. No. Anyway, what else? I'm trying to think. Sorry about that. I'm trying to think. It's gonna start smoking in a minute. Yeah, that's all. That's all I had for right now. So I do tend to overanalyze things, and I'm always trying to analyze things. That's Well, that's just me. That's part of my nature, I guess, trying to analyze stuff. And I will say this. I'm going to make this comment. I don't know why I'm making it, but I'm going to make it anyway. What I found out, this thing has relatively low miles on it. And it's pretty bad shape for as low a mileage, especially considering the clutch is in the shape that it's in now. Flywheel. I don't know. just saying. I don't even know that I want to admit this. Last couple of kits that I got, I didn't get those. So, yeah. So, don't that make you feel good? Fits. Alignment tool, clutch alignment tool. What can I say? See the rivets on the clutch itself? All right, they're quite a ways recessed into the material. Our old clutch, the rivets are completely rubbing on this. Cut grooves in here. Part of these, I see this frequently, and I will tell you this. I mean, there's going to be some arguments. Some of these you see turned, but the higher quality would be for it to have a crosshatch. So you see them both ways. This one here is turned. So there's been some changes. The original one was not that thick. This has got a liner on it. This one did not. I don't know if this is something that got changed, whatever. I'm not questioning that part. It's probably some high strength material that they added on there. And I know this is getting lengthy, guys, and I apologize. You know I do talk. So these here are radiused. That's ultimately what cuts into that surface. It will cut into it, especially when you're dragging the clutch. The other thing, noticeably on this vehicle, when you got in it, you shifted in gear, it took nearly all of its pedal for the clutch to engage. Well, that's obviously wrong. You don't want that. That clutch should be coming, I don't know, it depends on how people like it. Some race applications, you adjust it, they're adjustable to where the driver wants it, but generally in a regular automobile, you see about mid-waist, that clutch should start to grab real good. Anyway, just saying. So, sorry, but operating the camera on this vehicle is a very difficult task. It seems like no matter where you touch, you get grease all over you. So, the hose, I broke the hose on our PCV system. I undid the two bolts. Note exactly how this thing is sitting. There is a hose that hooks up to the back. It's a squeeze connector. You squeeze it and you wiggle it, wiggle, and it comes out at some point in time. So here is that thing. Do you see what that looks like? I'm going to go straight in the garbage can. Be careful not to throw anything in the engine right there. Let's let's get it disposed of, get rid of some of the grease at least. Now I'm going to carefully take this clamp off. I tried a while ago, I couldn't get the clamp off to save my life, so here's that clamp. I tried to slip it all off together and it just wasn't going to have it. So. They did a modification. They have a better seal, I'm going to say, on it now than what they did have. Had an O-ring seal in the old one. This one here's got a wide seal on it. Kind of wiped that off a little bit, make sure nothing going to fall in there. That rubber is basically locked in there. It's not letting go. That's probably the reason why I couldn't. I know it's difficult for you to see. Yeah, that's it right here. It just wasn't going to let go, so it is what it is. Now that port does come with the new one that's already attached to it. Now here's that one hose hookup, here's the other one, and there's that seal that's updated. I did undo a couple of brackets, wire brackets. God. Right here, I did undo that. Got to be careful, there's ground attached to that as well. These right here, I will show you that. I'm gonna pause the camera back up because, well, just because. I'm gonna pause the camera up, that's how you do it. There's 2 bolts in the side of this thing. It bolts against the housing here, so now you know where it goes. I know you probably won't be able to see that. I got it started. I gave it a spritz of some lubrication for the back, so hopefully that'll slip in easy, but it's not slipping anything yet, so I have to get me some leverage here. I can't have the camera here and do this at the same time, so I'm gonna pause you back up. So that's how that sitting. We got 10 mil here. Don't forget your ground. Slip your hose back on, and then this 10 mil right there, and make sure this slips back in. So you have to push on the sides here, slide it out to get your bolt out. So don't break that. Put your 2 bolts back in here. So all of this is fastened back up. Moving on. So I did a previous review on something. I got a little bone to pick. Here's our coils. Just unplugged them. Allen or whatever. It's the Torx. So Torx wrench. We'll figure it out here in just a second. But I got a little bone to pick. Harbor Freight. The Braun lights over here. Don't buy them. They're junk. I mean, they worked for a little bit, but using them out here, you know, this is air conditioned, heated and air conditioned, so it's not like they're laying out in the weather or anything like that. So these things are one by one going out. For one, there's a Lincoln brand, the Rural King, that's $10 cheaper than these are. These are 29 something, and the Lincoln brand is 19 something. I mean, if you won't pay that, I mean, these lights do work for a little while. If you're into throwing lights away, that's a good thing. 3 of them have done failed in a short period of time now. My Astro, and not a sponsor, they'll never be a sponsor, but Astro light that I got hasn't failed me yet, and I've had it the longest. I bought it several years back and never had a problem out of it. Anyway, moving on. Now this is why I hate cars that are dirty. This is why I absolutely hate them. I've told you wrong, it's a 5mm Allen. Got the coils removed out of this. That's one more little bad spot, is that hose that doesn't have no give. That's okay. Don't know about these tubes right there. They don't look that bad. Pause you back up, get a wrench. Now this is Beru Ultra Spark Plug. Now, I don't know the brand. I don't know who makes it. Look like a Bosch plug, but, well, let me do some research. Okay, so spark plug is correct. It is actually what it says in service information. That is the correct brand. There is a Bosch plug, and there's also the Beru. So, and this vehicle apparently has original Beru plugs in it. Now, in regards to these tubes, generally, and I'm going to say that loosely, generally, these pop out by just using a screwdriver and popping them. I'm here, this side here really wasn't leaking, all right? So it was mainly the other side, but we're going to replace all of them because I'm here. I don't feel like having to redo anything a month down the road. Now, like I said, screwdriver, pop, and they come loose. Normally, that's how they work. These are pretty loose on the back side, but anyway, I'm going to pause you up. I'm going to go ahead and complete both sides. There's nothing there to see that I can show you that I haven't showed you just now. So anyway, let me pause you up, turn the camera back on once that's done. These coils are pushing on the back side right here. They're pushing right here. You have to be careful when you put the coils back on this vehicle to tighten these bolts nice and slow, nice and even, go up, down, up, down. A little bit of work, but you don't want to crack these tubes. They are not heavy, solid tubes. Not making any promises here, but I am going to try. Let me see if I can get the camera to where I can actually show it. So, all right, so I don't know now because, well, I fold that screen in. I don't know if this is going to work. There's your plug-in. Once that unlatches, you can hear these, actually you can hear them unlatch. Now, the whole thing you need to realize is this engine is leaning down. This is much easier right now than what it will be once the engine is elevated and has a transmission attached to it. But that right there is, in a nutshell, what I did. O-rings are pretty weak on these things here. That's the reason they came out. I suspect that's the reason they came out so easily. So I might have to back up and regroup. So that was pretty easy how they come out. So that's probably why the thing is leaking, because the O-rings are flat. Make sure you don't throw dirt in there. But this the tube and the O-ring, I cannot show you this one. It's pretty flat. So that is oil gallery right there. That's part of, you know, part of the way it's set up. I don't know how else to explain it. You put a little bit of lubrication, a little bit of grease on that. If that's what you want to do, I'm trying to get an angle and insert this tube pretty straight. It'll go to a certain point and then it'll stop. And that's what I was trying to tell you. You can, I guess if you got enough muscle to do so, you can probably push that in there by hand, but I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'll put this and fold that screen over again so I can get my hand in there. Nice and quiet while you're working. Hopefully you can get you a quiet area. I'm trying to get the camera angle just right. So you see how that sticks out. So now I'll take my ratchet . Whoa. Just get it up against the shoulder, all I'm doing. All right, so it's starting to move. And that's up. Torque them to spec. And that's, in a nutshell, how you do that. So, pause you back up and finish it off. One more thing. Do yourself a favor. Take this little liner out of this corner. Get 2 screws, 2 10mm nuts, actually. They're not screws, they're nuts. But, come right out. I got the video listed as a clutch replacement. Keep in mind, this whole thing started on account there being a leak up here. You know, vacuum leak. It's got O2 sensor code. And I just want to make sure that we remember that part. You know, that's what started this whole thing.